He was rated the lowest match in the Royal Academy. Then he found the clerk's desk that moves match points between students. Yes, this desk can raise one girl's future only by wrecking another girl's score. Romance became fantasy football, except every trade owns a mansion and carries a sword. Theo asked his crush to choose him, and she refused before the academy. His score hit 0. His family lost contracts, his best friend's home faced seizure, and the board offered him that clerk's chair as a joke. Our boy got dumped so hard even Cinderella's mice would cancel the carriage. But Theo learned the chair controls every match in the kingdom. Soon, noble daughters were dueling over him while their mothers bid armies for his hand. Yet each point he accepted created an enemy. Let's rewind to that refusal and watch Theo erase the number nobody else could control. Celine stands beneath the match bell with Theo's silver token in her hand. He asks, "Will you attend the final year banquet with me?" She looks at the crowded stands, closes her fingers, and says, "No, Theo." Then she drops his token into the rejection bowl. The bell stays silent for one breath. Then the bowl swallows the token with a metal click. The bowl flashes red, and Theo's score falls from 12 to 0. Students lean over the rails as his name sinks beneath every other boy. Could this rejection get more public? Yes, because the match clerk rings the bell twice and reads the result aloud. Mara stops clapping. Across the arena, a contract runner tears Theo's family ribbon from the sponsor board. A blonde duelist laughs and asks Celine whether she wants a better escort. Celine accepts his arm because his household ranks third. Theo doesn't argue. He picks up his bent token while 200 students stare at this boy like he just lost a boss fight to a teacup. The duelist steps on the bent edge before Theo can reach it. Celine sees that, but keeps walking. Mara catches Theo beside a knight statue wearing somebody's stolen hat. She offers him a clean handkerchief and asks, "Do you want me to break his nose?" Theo says, "Not today." Mara answers, "Tomorrow works," and walks beside him without mentioning Celine. A courier thrusts him 2 seals. One cancels his family contract. The other marks Mara's house for seizure. The old clerk waits behind a desk, covered in brass sliders and black cards. He tells Theo that a 0 score disqualifies him from combat placement. Then he points at an empty chair and offers Theo temporary clerk duty. The punishment even comes with arm sleeves, because humiliation apparently has a uniform. Theo reads the duty sheet. 1 shift restores combat eligibility, so refusing would bury his last chance. Theo asks why the office needs him today. The clerk shows him a snapped steel nib beside a patch of moving ink. Something bit the last assistant and dragged her through that stain. Is this desk dangerous? The clerk answers by locking the door from the outside. Theo tests the handle once, then wedges the broken nib between his fingers. The stain follows his shoes. The ink rises into a thin creature with 6 paper teeth. Theo grabs the heavy scorebook and blocks its first bite. The thing spits Celine's card onto the floor. Then it lunges for Theo's breast pocket, where his 0-point card has started glowing. His second swing misses, and loose cards burst upward. The creature bites through his sleeve before he can turn. Theo jams the steel nib through the creature's paper skull. Black drops crawl back toward the desk, but 1 drop enters his card. The desk lights up and displays 2 active scores. Celine holds 86 points, while Mara holds only 9. A brass slider clicks between both names. An arrow points from Mara towards Celine, and transfer burns into the wood. A message appears across the brass frame and names Theo acting clerk. It says every added point must be removed from another active student. The desk cannot create value. It can only move it, which means this magical romance calculator runs like Monopoly with actual eviction notices. Theo opens the transfer ledger, and 3 nearby names slide into red ink. Theo tests 1 point by moving it from Celine to Mara. Celine's card dims in a distant display case. Mara's card brightens in Theo's hand. A bell rings once behind the wall, marking the completed exchange. Then a second message warns that the losing household will remember the clerk who approved the change. Mara receives a blue ribbon from the dorm steward because her score reached 10. That tiny rise gives her household another week before its academy shop is seized. The steward asks which admirer earned her sudden favor. Mara says she has no idea. She stares at the ribbon, then looks through the window toward this office. How did Theo help her from across campus? Celine discovers her score fell by 1 and stops beneath a fountain shaped like a vomiting griffin. The blonde duelist insists the drop means nothing. Yet his hand slips away from hers when his mother sends a warning bird. Celine catches the bird, but he refuses to read the message beside her. 1 point has already changed the way he stands beside her. Theo tries returning the point, but the desk rejects the move, Once a clerk approves a favor, the same transfer cannot be reversed directly. It demands a fresh action and a new reason. Theo writes that he made a mistake. The desk burns the explanation without opening a new transfer. Our boy has found magical customer service, and somehow the desk is less forgiving than an airline. The old clerk returns and notices Mara's ribbon listed in the scorebook. His smile disappears. He tells Theo, "You moved a point." Theo asks, "What happens now?" The clerk answers, "Now 2 households know your name." He closes the office shutters and warns Theo not to walk home alone. A carriage from Celine's household blocks Theo before he can leave. Her aunt steps down wearing silver armor over a dinner dress. She asks why Celine lost a point. Theo says he awarded it for kindness, and the aunt's eyes turn toward Mara's handkerchief in his pocket. She demands the transfer record, but Theo refuses to show another student's file. Mara arrives carrying 3 meat pies in a sack shaped like a dead frog. The aunt asks whether Mara bribed the clerk. Mara says, "With pastry?" The aunt replies, "Households have started wars for less." Mara offers her a pie to prove the sack holds nothing else. The aunt cuts it open with her sword. Theo believes her warning, because that sword comes to rest beside the spilled pies. Theo walks Mara toward her family's tiny potion shop. A red seizure mark covers half the door. Mara admits her parents borrowed money to keep her enrolled. If her match score stays below 10, the academy can reclaim this shop before winter. A neighboring merchant sees Theo beside her and hurriedly pulls down his shutters. Theo tells Mara he moved 1 point to her. She grips the counter until 3 blue bottles shake. 1 bottle tips, and Theo catches it before it breaks. Then she asks whom he took it from. When Theo says Celine, Mara closes her eyes because she knows exactly which household now wants that point returned. She locks the shop door and turns the sign to closed. Mara says, "Move it back before they hurt you." Theo answers, "The desk won't allow that." She asks, "Then what does it allow?" He tells her every transfer needs a new favor, meaning someone must gain and someone else must pay. Footsteps creak in the room above, and Mara lowers her voice so her parents will not hear. Theo spreads the score notes across the counter. They decide to find a legitimate favor before Celine's household acts. Mara removes the blue ribbon and places it beside his hand. She refuses to keep a benefit that targets another girl. Theo doesn't touch the ribbon. The point has already delayed her seizure, so returning this cloth would only make them both feel noble while changing nothing. Mara asks whether the desk can reverse the point. Theo says it cannot. Theo finds 17 favor requests nailed around the door. 1 girl offers tea for 2 points. Another offers a riding lesson for 3. A third has drawn herself defeating a dragon while Theo watches from a picnic blanket, which is ambitious marketing for someone afraid of geese. Theo takes down the dragon drawing last. Someone added a goose overnight. The first petitioner enters with a silver tea tray and 6 armed cousins. She says, 3 points for tea. Theo replies, 1 point for tutoring 2 first years. She offers 2. Theo refuses, and her cousins start counting the windows as if planning where to enter later. The cousins stop counting when Theo asks whether they also need lessons in arithmetic. A spear student pushes past her and presents a repaired practice shield. She asks for 4 points because she saved academy supplies. Theo checks the request and sees the repair is real. But those 4 points must come from 4 students, and every possible name belongs to someone with relatives nearby. The student taps the repaired rim. A split there nearly broke her wrist. Theo awards the spear student 1 point taken from a boy who destroyed that shield. The desk accepts the cause. Her card flashes, and she grins at Theo before carrying the shield away. The boy's card turns red, so this fair decision still creates an enemy with excellent upper body strength. Theo records the cause in ink. The desk stamps it with a hard click. The punished boy finds Theo beside the target dummies. He swings without warning because his combat bracket just fell. Theo ducks, and the fist removes a dummy's straw head. Mara hits the attacker with a bucket, but the bucket folds around his skull like a metal bonnet. Nearby students scatter, but 2 stay long enough to begin taking bets. The boy tears off the bucket and charges again. Theo uses the long nib case from his collar to catch the attacker's sleeve. Then Mara sweeps his ankle with a broom. The boy crashes into a rack of wooden swords, and every sword lands on him except the sharp one. Theo pins the torn sleeve down. Mara plants 1 shoe on it. A combat instructor arrives and asks why a ranked student attacked a clerk. The boy points at Theo and says, "He stole my point." Theo answers, "You broke school property." The instructor checks the ruined dummy, then assigns the attacker a week of repair duty beside the shield girl. The instructor makes him collect the scattered swords. Nessa gives him the heaviest stack. The shield girl watches this result and offers Theo her hand. She introduces herself as Nessa and says he handled the attack well. Mara immediately wedges the broom between them. Why is she blocking a handshake? Mara claims the broom slipped, though that broom has developed suspiciously good aim. Nessa grabs the broom's other end. Mara refuses to release it. By lunch, rumors say Theo can raise any girl's match value. 3 tables invite him at once. Celine sits beside the blonde duelist and pretends not to watch. Then Nessa drops her tray across from Theo, while Mara takes the seat beside him before anyone else can. Theo chooses the smallest table. The other invitations move closer anyway. Nessa says, "I owe you for the shield ruling." Mara asks, "Do you repay every clerk with lunch?" Nessa answers, "Only the broad ones." Theo nearly chokes on a carrot shaped like a tiny spear. The blonde duelist arrives carrying Celine's spare cup. Celine follows to reclaim it. 4 girls now face one another across Theo, and the lunch bell rings like a starting gong. You already know this meal isn't ending peacefully. A noble girl places a cake between Theo and Nessa. She announces that her household wishes to sponsor his clerk work. The noble girl quietly produces a pen, expecting Theo to sign before eating. Mara cuts one slice and finds a marriage contract baked inside. Nessa reads the first line, then uses it as a napkin because subtlety has officially left the building. Celine finally walks over and asks why Theo is accepting gifts. Theo points at the untouched cake and says he accepted nothing. Celine replies that people will still assume he did. Celine spots the ruined contract and pockets the pen before its owner protests. Then the blonde duelist calls Theo desperate, and the entire table goes quiet. Theo asks the duelist whether he repaired the arena rail he broke last week. The boy laughs until Theo displays a pending deduction card. Nessa taps the deduction card, and 2 nearby heirs abruptly remember their own debts. One more unpaid repair will cost his household 2 points. His face freezes, because apparently romance ends where an invoice begins. The duelist pays for the rail before dessert. Theo awards the repair crew 2 points from his score. Since Theo has 0, the desk records a negative balance against his card. The repair foreman salutes Theo, while 3 scorers argue over who must record the debt. The clerk never mentioned negative points, and this new black number crawls beneath Theo's name like a centipede. Theo asks the old clerk why his card can fall below 0. The man locks every drawer before answering. He says the board uses low-ranked students as balance weight. Their negative scores fund high matches, but they never learn because most never touch this desk. Theo opens the oldest ledger and finds whole tournament seasons financed by invisible deficits. Theo points at his -2 entry and asks how far it can fall. The clerk says nobody tested the limit and survived academy politics. Then he warns Theo to stop moving points. The clerk pulls on his plainest wig and starts packing a travel case. Our boy has heard smarter threats, but none came from a man packing 3 emergency wigs. A bell interrupts them, and every card on the desk jumps. Someone submitted 40 requests at once. The old clerk stares at the crests stamped across them. Theo sorts the requests by signature and discovers the same hand on all 40. Celine's household wants Theo removed and replaced before he can approve another favor. Theo enters a circular chamber where 12 chairs face an empty center. Celine's aunt accuses him of targeting her niece. The chairwoman asks whether Theo moved the point for personal revenge. Theo says Mara earned it by helping him after the public refusal. Mara arrives carrying repair receipts, and the chairwoman reluctantly admits them into evidence. Celine sits behind her aunt and keeps rubbing her thumb over Theo's old token. When asked whether Theo threatened her, she says no. Celine meets Theo's eyes, then places his old token openly on the table. Her aunt turns so sharply that a silver feather flies off her helmet. That one honest answer blocks the first attempt to fire him. The chairwoman gives Theo 7 days to prove his transfers help the academy. If he fails, the board will erase every move and charge the loss to Mara's household. Theo asks for the transfer ledger, and the chamber's secretary stops writing. Theo looks at this smiling woman and realizes she already knows the desk is zero-sum. Theo asks, "Why punish Mara for my choice?" The chairwoman replies, "A clerk needs restraint." He asks, "Who restrained you?" Her smile thins. Celine's aunt demands silence, but the chairwoman lets Theo finish because she wants to hear how much he has discovered. Theo names the hidden deficits, and 2 board members reach for their scorecards. Theo says the academy funds noble matches by burying debt inside weak students. Several board members freeze. One drops a grape into his sleeve. The chairwoman orders Theo to produce 10 useful transfers before the deadline. A junior member closes the ledger recording scholarship penalties. Theo reaches across the table and reopens it. Outside, Mara asks why Theo challenged the board. He says they were already coming for her shop. She kicks the stone rail and cracks her boot heel. She tells Theo never to gamble her household without asking. She makes him promise to warn her before the board does. Theo promises without defending himself. Theo apologizes, but Mara does not forgive him. She walks away missing one heel. Nessa arrives carrying it from 3 stairs below. She asks whether this is a bad time. Theo calls her timing legendary. Nessa studies his face and abandons her joke. Theo sorts requests into useful acts and decorative bribes. A kitchen worker seeks 1 point for feeding injured trainees. Another girl wants 6 points for wearing a blue dress near him. Her request includes perfume samples and a sketch of their future castle. Theo seals the perfume in an evidence box. The box smells newly engaged. Theo visits the kitchen to verify the request. The worker packs stew into cracked jars for the infirmary. She does not recognize him and orders him to chop onions. After an hour, she spots his clerk sleeves beneath the skins. A jar splits as she tightens it. Theo catches the stew pot before it falls. The worker refuses a point because someone else must lose it. Theo asks what would protect the infirmary deliveries. She points to 2 empty grain bins and requests supplies. The favor becomes a school need instead of a personal reward. She demands that every supply mark be posted for the kitchen staff. Theo adds the condition. Theo takes 3 points from students fined for wasting food. The kitchen receives 3 supply marks. The worker gains no personal score. The desk still names Theo as responsible. 3 fined students now want to punch him near a pantry. One sends a challenge before the ink dries. Theo files it beneath breakfast. The first stew jars arrive while an injured swordsman chews a bandage. Actual food makes him stop. Nessa passes bowls. The kitchen worker points out Theo across the room. Everyone sees that his transfer produced something useful. The swordsman offers Theo half his bread. Theo gives it to another patient. Celine arrives with medicine from her household. She sees Theo cleaning stew from a soldier's boot. She tells the healer her family will refill the grain bins. She may be helping the infirmary or answering Theo's move. Even Celine seems unsure. She asks how much grain lasts a month. The answer doubles her offer. The desk automatically awards Celine 1 service point. It comes from the noble girl who hid a contract inside the cake. Her rejected bribe counts against her. Theo did not approve the transfer. Someone is operating the desk remotely. He presses Celine's card against the brass frame. A blue line crawls toward the northern wall. Theo follows the blue line to the bell tower. A masked assistant turns a smaller brass wheel inside. Seeing Theo, the assistant throws cards into the bell gears. Theo saves one before the teeth shred it. The assistant escapes through a window with an umbrella glider. The rescued card bears Mara's name. The bells ring without anyone pulling the ropes. The cards jam the mechanism, and the match bell rings random pairings. Nessa's name flashes beside 5 boys and 1 horse. Mara pairs with the old clerk. Theo pairs with the academy furnace. Students cheer each absurd announcement from the courtyard. The horse answers with an indignant whinny. Theo climbs into the shaking gears and pulls out the false cards. A toothed wheel catches his sleeve and drags him forward. Celine grabs his belt. Nessa braces Celine from behind. Mara arrives and jams her broken heel between the gears. The heel splinters, but the largest wheel shudders. Theo tears one hand free and reaches for the brake chain. The bell stops inches before the wheel crushes Theo's arm. Mara asks, "Still gambling alone?" Theo answers, "I invited the furnace." Celine says, "It declined." Nessa orders them to stop flirting while hanging 4 floors up. Theo pulls the brake chain. They drop onto the maintenance ledge. Mara retrieves half her heel and says Theo owes her a boot. Theo finds the masked assistant's discarded seal inside a false card. It belongs to the matchboard rather than Celine's household. The chairwoman staged the sabotage to make Theo appear careless. He needs proof before she triggers something worse. Celine presses the seal into wax and recognizes the board's private registry mark. Nessa pockets the impression before the tower clerks arrive. Mara walks beside Theo with the railing between them. Her household received another seizure warning despite the extra point. Someone raised the required score from 10 to 14. The board can move the ladder whenever a poor family advances. Mara shows him the warning. It bears the same registry mark. Theo realizes both orders came through one office. Theo offers to raise Mara by 4 more points. She refuses because 4 students would pay. She asks whether he would do it without telling her. Theo hesitates. Mara's jaw tightens before she walks away. He follows until she raises one hand. She tears the warning in half and keeps both pieces. Nessa calls Theo into a practice circle around a stuffed wyvern. She says the board cannot discredit him if combat students support his rulings. She plans to win the monster hunt and dedicate the points to his reform. Nessa knocks the wyvern's head off with one strike. The watching students cheer when Theo catches it. Theo says, "You want my approval before earning anything." Nessa replies, "I want you alive long enough to approve it." He asks what she gets. She answers, "Dinner." Behind the wyvern, Mara buries one knuckle in its cloth eye. The head slips from Theo's hands and rolls toward her. She kicks it back without looking at him. The hunt teams gather beside armored hounds wearing bells. Celine joins the blonde duelist squad on her aunt's orders. Nessa chooses Theo as her scorekeeper. Mara joins as field healer. The 3 girls exchange cutting looks. One hound refuses the duelist's leash and sits beside Celine. The kennel master records the insult on the roster. The blonde duelist boasts that his team will claim the highest tier beast. Nessa points to his hound urinating on his polished boot. Theo asks whether the beast has surrendered already. The duelist threatens him. Even Celine hides a laugh behind her glove. Mara gives the hound dried meat. It immediately accepts her as its only authority. The teams enter a forest where red mushrooms whisper student names. Theo records each captured beast on a wax card. Nessa drops 2 fang rabbits with the flat of her spear. Mara treats one because she will not let the hunt become a slaughter. The healed rabbit bites Theo's card and steals a corner. Its burrow reveals freshly cut snare wires. Celine's team finds tracks from a bronze-backed boar worth 6 points. Her duelist rushes ahead before the scouts finish checking them. The tracks circle a tree covered in broken arrows. Theo asks why a boar would collect trophies. Celine finds academy ribbon tied around an arrowhead. A hound growls toward the thorns. Something heavy begins circling the team. A hunter wearing a boar hide drops from the branches. He fires a hooked bolt through the duelist's cape and pins him to a stump. Then 3 masked hunters surround Celine. The hunt has become an abduction, and somebody knew exactly which team she would join. A 4th hunter cuts the trail markers, sealing the quickest route back. Theo orders Nessa to circle left because the hunters keep watching his clerk sleeves. Mara throws a healing flask into the fire, filling the clearing with green smoke. Celine bites through the rope around her wrist. Nessa vanishes into smoke, then taps a cedar twice to mark her position. Every named person moves, while the pinned duelist mostly contributes expensive screaming. One hunter grabs Celine and demands the scorebook key. Theo tosses his steel nib case instead. The hunter catches it and laughs, but the case opens into a spring blade. Celine drives the blade into his shoulder and twists free before he understands Theo armed her. Her freed hand snatches his whistle and flings it beneath Mara's boot. Nessa knocks a second hunter into the whispering mushrooms. The mushrooms repeat his secret password in 6 different voices. Mara hears it and opens the cage holding the hunting hounds. One hound catches Celine's blood scent, then chooses the masked scent and lunges. Those dogs hit the 3rd attacker like the Avengers arriving with no concern for property damage. The wounded leader blows a bone whistle, and the bronze-backed boar charges from the brush. Metal plates cover its spine, proving the hunters trained it. Theo cannot fight while carrying the scorebook. So he straps the book beneath the pinned duelist's cape and tells him not to move. The duelist protests until the boar's footfall shakes bark onto his face. The boar smashes Nessa through a dead tree. She rises, but her spear has snapped near the blade. Celine casts silver threads around the beast's legs. The threads hold for one breath, then break and slice both her palms. Her spell leaves bright strands across the armor, marking where plates overlap. Mara runs toward Celine because the cuts are bleeding fast. The boar turns toward them. Mara drags Celine behind a root and binds both wounded palms. Theo grabs Nessa's broken spear and plants its shaft between 2 roots. He doesn't have to overpower this monster. He needs it angry enough to stop looking down. Theo waves Celine's rejected token in front of the boar. The silver flash draws its charge. At the final step, Theo dives aside, and the beast drives its plated head onto the planted spear. The shaft punches between its armor plates, but the boar stays standing. The impact jolts the hidden book, and the duelist finally stops shouting. The wounded beast whips Theo with one tusk and throws him into a mushroom bed. He cannot feel his left arm. The mushrooms echo Theo's gasp, giving the leader a direction to follow. Nessa tries to rise, yet one knee folds. This is the price beat the boasting duelist promised would never happen to his team. Celine wraps her bleeding hands around the broken silver threads. She asks Nessa where to aim. Nessa points beneath the boar's front plate and says, "There." Nessa hooks the loosened plate with her spearhead and tears it wider. Celine pulls, Mara freezes the wound with a tonic, and Theo drives the steel nib into the exposed gap. The boar falls, but the hunter leader crawls toward a hidden whistle. Mara sees him first. The freed hounds form a growling wall between him and the trees. She steps on his wrist and asks who hired them. He smiles through broken teeth because he expects the board to protect him. Theo kneels and shows the man a deduction card. A captured attacker loses every household protection until questioned. The hunter's smile vanishes. He says the chairwoman ordered Celine's abduction, so Theo would be blamed for changing her match route. Celine hears the confession, then orders Theo to record every word. Celine stares at the hunter without speaking. Her torn glove drips onto the leaves. Theo reaches for her shoulder, but she steps away because his transfer started this chain. That reaction stays with him longer than the pain in his arm. Mara calls after Celine. Celine hides her palm and keeps walking. The hunt teams return carrying the bronze plate as proof. The crowd cheers until the pinned duelist emerges with the scorebook strapped beneath his cape. Somebody asks whether he protected it. He claims yes, and the hounds start barking like even they reject that resume. The duelist bows. The scorebook snaps shut and catches his cape. The hunt master awards 6 team points. Theo gives 2 to Nessa for leading the fight and 2 to Mara for saving Celine. He gives Celine 2 because she exposed the boar's weak point. The scorebook takes all 6 from the captured hunter's sponsoring household. The hunt master objects. Theo reads the rule aloud, ending it. Nessa's score rises past Celine's for the first time. Students swarm around her. Celine watches this new favorite receive flowers, challenge tokens, and 3 marriage offers written on the same fish. Then she looks at Theo, who is binding his useless arm alone. Nessa dismisses her admirers. She crosses the yard to fix Theo's sling. Mara treats Theo's shoulder, but refuses to speak beyond instructions. Celine enters and places his rejected silver token beside the bed. She says, "You used this to save us." Theo answers, "It finally did something useful." Her fingers remain on the token after his hand touches it. Celine tries to apologize. Theo says he deserved her anger. Nessa arrives with a victory ribbon and drapes it over Theo's blanket. Mara immediately moves the ribbon away from his bandage. Celine moves the token closer. Theo lies between 3 silent girls rearranging objects around him like he is the world's most injured game board. Nessa asks who stayed beside him. Mara tightens the final knot. The captured hunter is found dead before questioning. A black scorecard rests on his chest. The board erased his household protection and then erased him. Theo sees the card and stops joking, because this death proves the chairwoman will kill to protect the system. The hunter's fingernails hold black wax from a sealed door. Theo orders Mara to preserve the wax instead of burning the clothes. The academy holds a short service beneath swords wrapped in white thread. Celine stands 2 rows away and keeps her injured hands hidden. Mara doesn't touch breakfast afterward. Nessa misses combat practice and sits alone beside the dead hunter's empty guard chair. Nessa ties her victory ribbon to the empty chair before leaving. Theo returns after the service and finds the old clerk packing. The man admits he gave the chairwoman access to the bell tower wheel. He feared she would target his grandchildren. Theo understands the cause, but he still locks the old man's desk key inside the scorebook. The clerk names the servant who carried the chairwoman's messages. The clerk asks whether Theo is firing him. Theo says, "I'm removing your access." The man replies, "That chair will ruin you." Theo answers, "It already improved my social life." Neither laughs, because the hunter's black card remains between them. The clerk surrenders his office seal. Theo leaves it untouched. The hunt transfers satisfy 3 of Theo's 10 required rulings. 7 remain before his deadline. Then 42 noble girls submit service offers at once. Each offer names Theo as the desired match, and every household promises troops, food, or gold if he approves. 11 offers repeat the same phrase. Theo freezes those petitions. He orders every seal checked. The girls gather around Theo beneath the vomiting griffin fountain. One offers 12 horses. Another offers a warded tower. A third presents a trained hawk that immediately steals Theo's lunch. Have these girls fallen for him? Some have, but most are fighting for the hand controlling their scores. Celine catches the stolen lunch. Nessa claims the hawk as campaign property. Nessa steps onto the fountain and announces Theo isn't accepting bids. Celine says Nessa cannot speak for him. Mara asks why Celine suddenly cares after rejecting him. Theo tries to leave, but a merchant's daughter blocks him with a vineyard deed. The griffin keeps vomiting through this argument, providing the only calm voice in the courtyard. A noble girl grabs Theo's right arm while another claims his left. Nessa hooks his belt and pulls him backward. Mara smacks both hands away with her medicine bag. Celine catches Theo when his boots slide, and the crowd roars like this is a championship grapple. His scorebook falls, but a first-year apprentice catches it before it hits the fountain. Theo climbs onto the fountain rim and says he will approve only useful work. Any girl offering property must show how it helps students. The crowd quiets because he has turned courtship bids into public missions. A baker's daughter asks whether repairing the academy ovens qualifies, and Theo says it does. Our boy has accidentally invented community service powered by romantic panic. Celine volunteers her family's empty watchtower as student housing. Nessa offers combat escorts for kitchen deliveries. Mara offers nothing, because she refuses to trade kindness for points. Theo respects that choice, but the desk cannot reward what Mara won't submit. His clerk begins recording proposals while students shout about leaking dormitories and broken bath pipes. Theo inspects Celine's tower and finds the roof full of nesting spear crows. One bird wears a dead knight's helmet. Celine insists the place can house 30 students after repairs. Theo tests the stairs, and a rotten step collapses beneath his boot. The fall reveals a sealed storeroom containing intact cots and winter blankets. Then the helmeted crow drops a finger bone onto the contract, which weakens her presentation. Nessa arrives with 6 combat students to clear the birds. Mara brings salve for anyone pecked. Celine wants to command, because the tower belongs to her family. Nessa refuses, and this useful project becomes another fight over who gets to stand closest to Theo. Theo assigns separate floors, and both women obey when a roof beam cracks overhead. The spear crows attack in a black spiral. Celine uses silver threads to pull shutters closed. Nessa drives her spear through the floor and turns the shaft into a perch. Mara pours sleeping tonic across a sack of grain while Theo points everyone toward the stairwell. The combat students raise their shields and funnel half the flock toward Mara's bait. The helmeted crow avoids the grain and dives at Theo's scorebook. Its beak tears out Mara's card. Theo catches the bird against his chest, but its metal feathers cut his clerk's sleeves. Celine traps its wings, and Nessa knocks the helmet off with one precise strike. Mara binds Theo's forearms while demanding that someone recover every scrap of her card. Inside the helmet, Theo finds a board seal and a tiny speaking crystal. The chairwoman has been listening through this crow. She knows every mission and every transfer before Theo files it. Theo replaces the crystal inside the helmet and leaves the captured crow where it can hear him. How can he surprise someone watching his desk? First, he has to feed her the wrong plan. Theo speaks near the crystal and claims he will grant Celine 8 points for the tower. Then he quietly writes only 2 into the scorebook. The other 6 appear as false marks on a spare card. He leaves that card beside an open window where the board's messenger can glimpse it. This lie will show him which households attacked the supposed transfer. Within an hour, 6 students challenge Celine. They believe she jumped above Nessa again. Nessa receives no challenge because her real score still leads. The false marks have exposed 6 households working from the chairwoman's private information. Every challenge form uses the same rare violet ink, confirming that one office prepared them. Celine asks whether Theo used her as bait. He admits it. She grips the railing so tightly her healing palms reopen. Theo says he needed names, but Celine answers that he never asked whether she was willing to bleed again. She says the housing mission may continue, but no future scheme may use her without consent. Theo closes the scorebook, apologizes, and promises that her refusal will end any plan. Mara wraps Celine's hands while glaring at Theo. Nessa stands between him and the challengers. Celine asks to pass, but her voice shakes. Theo admits he thought he could reverse the trick before anyone was hurt. Mara says, pain arrives faster than cleverness. Theo understands that cleverness becomes cruelty when others suffer for his plan. Theo burns Celine's false card in a blue candle. He writes a formal apology naming the 6 exposed challengers. He awards her 1 point for bearing an unchosen risk. Taking it from his entry drops him to -3. He sends every challenger the correction. Celine's copy asks for no forgiveness. The desk warns Theo about funding another score. At -10, his household loses academy protection. At -20, his name becomes board property. The desk will not explain that phrase. Theo finds the rule ledger's relevant page missing. He pockets a loose binding thread as proof of deliberate removal. Theo finds his family's rented room sealed by academy guards. His mother has left for a cousin's farm. A guard gives him a box containing 2 shirts and a wooden spoon. The academy seized everything else against his score. Asked about travel money, the guard admits the debt office kept her last wages. Mara finds Theo holding the wooden spoon. She offers him the cot behind her potion shop without saying he deserved this. Theo refuses because her household is threatened too. Mara takes his box and places the spoon beside her best ladle. She asks, "Must every favor become arithmetic with you?" Theo says, "The desk makes it arithmetic." Mara replies, "The desk isn't speaking." Theo accepts the cot. She gives him a backdoor key and warns that the lock sticks in rain. He tests it twice, practicing trust. For the first time, he accepts a favor without moving a point. Nessa brings Theo's jacket with its sleeves repaired. Celine sends new gloves but stays away. Mara sets the gifts apart. Theo puts on the gloves first, and Nessa notices. A messenger delivers 14 roses while asking whether he prefers redheads or cavalry. 7 household ribbons bind the stems. 1 hides a banquet invitation. Theo asks the messenger for useful information. The board is holding a private household supper tonight. Every family with a daughter above 50 points is invited. Theo is the main course, politely named the active clerk. The messenger warns that absent candidates can still receive terms. Mara closes early and orders Theo to claim his chair. Theo enters the banquet in his repaired jacket and Celine's gloves. House mothers flank a table covered with roast peacock. Nessa represents her household. Celine sits beside her aunt. Seatless Mara serves medicine to an elderly guest. Theo's place is at the table's head. It has no plate. The chairwoman asks Theo to name his preferred match. He refuses before the useful work deadline. One mother offers 500 soldiers. Another offers a lake with 2 hostile mermaids. A third offers 3 armies and tea. Theo asks what academy work the armies will perform. The unprepared mothers begin conferring. Theo studies the tea and says, "Earlier, someone offered 3 points in tea." Nessa nearly spits out her drink. Celine remembers and smiles. Nessa raises her cup to the unnamed bidder until the chairwoman orders it lowered. The copied bid shows that the score war now commands military supplies. Board scribes open fresh ledgers as the chairwoman proposes her deal. "Choose Celine and keep your chair." Theo asks what happens to Mara. Her line closes. He asks about Nessa. Her score falls. Celine's aunt grips her shoulder before she can object. Nessa sets down her cup and watches. Theo answers, "Then you offered me 3 enemies, not 1 match." Celine's aunt rises and claims the offer protects everyone important. Celine pushes back her chair. She says, "You mean everyone expensive." Her aunt slaps the table, and a peacock leg jumps onto a board member's plate like it also wants to leave. Celine tears the offered contract in half and drops it into gravy. The chairwoman orders Mara removed because she lacks a household seat. Theo states that Mara is his invited advisor. The chairwoman asks when he filed that invitation. Theo points at the repaired cuff where Mara stitched her family mark beside his hidden nib case. The stitched mark warms, and the desk records the invitation retroactively. The desk beneath the banquet table accepts Mara as a witness. Her score rises by 1 because a clerk formerly trusted her. The point comes from Celine's aunt, whose obstruction counts as misconduct. This automatic move turns the supper into a room full of drawn swords. Several board members draw signet knives, while their spouses barricade the exits. Nessa plants her spear between the blades and says nobody fights over 1 point. 3 mothers answer that their houses have fought over smaller insults. Mara lifts a soup bowl and asks whether anyone wants to explain that to the peacock. Even the chairwoman pauses. The peacock pecks a fallen knife, flinging it beneath the dessert cart. A chandelier suddenly drops toward Theo. Nessa shoves him aside, while Celine's silver threads catch one chain. Mara pulls the elderly guest under the table. The falling frame crushes the chairwoman's empty seat, proving she knew the attack was coming. A second chain snaps, and Celine burns both palms holding it. Masked servants lock the doors and throw black cards into the candles. Every household score vanishes from the wall. Soot from the cards crawls across the score wall like spilled ink. The chairwoman announces that Theo caused an illegal balance failure. If the guests believe her, they will surrender his clerk key willingly. Theo points at the untouched wine before the chairwoman. Dust covers every other glass, but hers was removed before the chandelier fell. He asks why she prepared for his supposed mistake. Celine's aunt spots matching black wax inside the chairwoman's signet ring. The mothers turn toward her, and the first layer of the trap breaks. The masked servants attack before the questions spread. Nessa holds 3 near the door. Celine loops silver thread around 2 wrists and makes both men strike each other. Mara smashes medicine bottles beneath the table, releasing pepper smoke that sends armored nobles crawling for napkins. The rescued guest trips another servant with a silver-topped walking stick. Theo reaches the hidden desk and restores the score wall. One attacker carries a black card tied to the dead hunter's household. The board has been using erased families as disposable soldiers. This enemy has no score left to lose, so the desk cannot punish him. Mara marks his coat with blue medicine so Nessa can track him. The scoreless attacker drives a knife through the old clerk's chest. The old man had entered through a side door to warn Theo. He drops beside the peacock platter and grips Theo's sleeve. The clerk still manages to shove a folded chapel token toward Theo. No joke follows, because his blood is already soaking through the repaired cloth. The clerk whispers that a second scorebook lies below the academy. Then his fingers release Theo's sleeve. Theo presses both hands over the wound even after Mara shakes her head. Mara opens the token and finds a cellar stair scratched inside. Celine looks away, while Nessa lowers her spear and stops chasing the retreating attacker. The board calls the death proof of Theo's dangerous rule. Theo doesn't answer. He removes the old man's brass key and closes the man's eyes. Theo orders Mara to guard the body. He tells Nessa and Celine to meet him in the academy courtyard at midnight. That quiet action follows him through the next 2 beats, exactly as a death should. The chairwoman escapes through a floor gate with the masked servants. Household guards fill the courtyard, but nobody knows whom to arrest. Theo walks past them carrying the old clerk's body. Even the mothers who threatened him lower their weapons when they see this. A young guard follows the fugitives, but Theo orders him to seal the gate. Theo places the old clerk beneath the wrapped swords. Mara cleans the blood from his hands, though a dark line stays beneath one nail. Nessa waits at the door. Celine kneels beside the body and promises the man's grandchildren will be protected from her aunt. Nessa rings the chapel bell once, marking a death the academy would hide. Theo finally speaks and says the board owns a second scorebook below them. The chairwoman can erase households there, which explains the scoreless killers. He wants to reach it before she turns more rejected students into weapons. Celine remembers servants carrying sealed ledgers toward the cellar after each examination. Mara asks whether this is revenge. Theo says it began that way. Now he wants the desk destroyed before it swallows another family. Celine hears the answer and returns his silver token, but this time she closes his fingers around it instead of dropping it. Nessa says the morning patrol changes in 12 minutes. The brass key opens a stair behind a saint statue with removable teeth. Nessa goes first, followed by Theo, Mara, and Celine. Each carries a distinct tool: spear, scorebook, medicine bag, and silver thread. 4 people enter, and nobody gets to become decorative furniture. Celine seals the stair with silver thread behind them. The stairs end at a tunnel lined with student cards. Some cards belong to graduates who supposedly left the kingdom. Their scores are all negative. Mara finds her father's old card among them, showing her household debt began before she entered the academy. Nessa spots crossed-out dormitory numbers beside the names of missing graduates. She pulls the card free, and the tunnel walls start closing. Theo shouts for her to put it back. Mara refuses because the board has used her father for 18 years. Nessa braces the walls with her spear, while Celine threads the card into Theo's scorebook. Mara reads it aloud. Her father's debt was transferred to his unborn daughter. The scorebook accepts the old card as evidence, and the walls stop. Mara stares at her father's handwriting until her breathing slows. Theo doesn't tell her to move on. He waits while she folds the card once and places it inside her coat. At her request, Theo copies that sentence into his scorebook. The tunnel opens into a cavern filled with hanging brass chains. Thousands of scorecards travel overhead like laundry in a storm. Beneath them, black ink turns a huge wheel. This is the real machine balancing every student and household in the kingdom. Celine catches one card and recognizes a cousin declared dead overseas. A masked guard captain blocks the bridge across the ink. He recognizes Theo's negative card and calls him board property. Theo asks what that means. The captain says once Theo reaches -20, the board can move points through him without any cause. The captain taps a chain, and Theo's card jerks toward the wheel. So the lowest students aren't merely weights. They are empty roads the board uses to transfer wealth between chosen houses. Theo has only reached -3, but the chairwoman needs him desperate enough to keep borrowing against himself. Across the cavern, points drain from a baker into a minister's crest. The guard captain offers Theo a clean score and his family home. In return, Theo must raise Celine above every other girl and bury Mara below 0. Nessa asks what happens to her. The captain smiles and says strong girls always find work as household blades. Mara refuses first, and the captain draws his sword. Theo says, "You rehearsed that offer." The captain replies, "Many clerks accept it." Mara asks, "How many?" He says, "Every clerk who lived." Celine asks, "And the dead ones?" The captain points at the black ink beneath the bridge. A chain bell sounds, and the captain draws his sword. The flagship exchange ends when the ink forms hands around the chains. Former clerks rise from the reservoir as flat black soldiers. Their faces still carry brass numbers. One soldier whispers the overdue account number from Mara's father's oldest notice. Is the board literally running on dead employees? Yes, and even Excel would ask for a safer workplace. Nessa attacks the guard captain while Celine binds 2 ink soldiers. Mara throws salt powder that dries another creature into cracked paper. Theo runs toward the moving score chains. Nessa kicks a fallen chain across Theo's route to shield him. The captain lets him pass because the bridge ahead is missing 6 sections. Theo jumps onto a hanging card rack as it crosses the gap. The rack lists girls whose scores rose after arranged marriages. Each increase matches a negative student elsewhere. A second rack carries scholarship winners who vanished from the academy before graduation. He points at these paired numbers and understands the machine records every stolen future. A black soldier lands behind Theo and swings an ink blade. Theo blocks with the scorebook, but the blade cuts 3 pages away. Those pages contain his useful rulings. The deadline proof falls into the reservoir and dissolves before he can grab it. Theo tears out a blank cover sheet and blinds the soldier's numbered face. The guard captain drives Nessa backward with a chain sword. She blocks twice, but the third strike breaks her spear shaft. Celine catches the flying blade with silver thread. The captain pulls hard and drags Celine toward the ink. Nessa braces against the bridge rail until the stone begins cracking. Mara wraps the thread around a stone post and burns her palms holding it. Nessa grabs Celine's waist. Theo leaps from the card rack and cuts the captain's chain with his steel nib. The 3 girls fall together, still arguing about who actually saved whom. Celine lands first and refuses to release the thread despite her bleeding hand. The captain opens a black card and drains points from 6 student guards above. His armor thickens with their stolen scores. Theo hears distant screams through the chains. A guard begs through the links, then another voice falls silent above them. Every power boost here has an on-screen victim, and this one just emptied 6 people. Nessa strikes the captain with her broken shaft, but the armor doesn't bend. Celine binds his ankles, yet he tears through the threads. Mara notices the armor grows only when the black card faces upward. She throws a sticky healing paste across its number. The paste seals the card's grooves, and a stolen shoulder plate dissolves. The card stops reading the score, and the armor flickers. Theo hits the captain beneath the jaw. Nessa follows with the broken spear tip. Celine pulls his feet together, and the captain crashes face first onto the bridge. The impact knocks the black card loose, but the captain snatches it back. The captain isn't defeated. He rolls beneath Nessa's next strike and cuts her side. Then he tears Mara's father's card from her coat. He says one more deduction will erase her household forever. Her father's brass number glows in his fist as the archive counts down. Mara freezes because he finally found the account Theo keeps avoiding. Theo can save Mara's card by moving 10 points from Celine. The machine displays the choice above them. Celine sees her name and says, "Do it." Mara says, "Don't." Nessa watches Theo, because whichever girl he chooses will split this alliance. The score chains lock around Theo's wrist before his nib can reach either account. Theo closes the scorebook. He refuses the choice because the board created both options. The captain crushes Mara's father's card in his fist. Far above, a bell sounds from the lower market, and Mara's family shop loses academy protection. Theo slips the scorebook under his coat before anyone can object. Board agents hammer the seizure mark through the potion shop door. Mara's parents escape through the back with one bag. Then an agent drops a fire charm inside. The crooked green roof burns, and the glass frog sign melts into the street. Mara's father sends a blue warning flare above the burning roofs. Mara hears the shop bell die through the score chain. She doesn't cry. She picks up a shard of her father's card and puts it against the captain's throat. Theo reaches toward her, but stops because this loss is permanent and cannot be softened with one sentence. Through the chain, Mara feels her parents running toward the river. The captain tells Mara killing him won't restore the shop. She answers, I know. Then she cuts the black card from his hand instead of cutting him. Her choice removes his armor while preserving the information inside his head. Black armor peels from his chest and cracks across the tiles. Nessa knocks the captain down again. Celine binds both wrists with the last of her silver thread. Theo asks where the chairwoman went. The captain laughs and says she is already moving the true scorebook toward the kingdom's match vault. A rail bell answers beneath them, and dust shakes from shelves. The vault travels beneath the academy on iron rails whenever danger appears. It will surface inside a different stronghold before sunset. Theo asks which one. The captain says only the chairwoman knows, but Mara notices black dust moving east across the floor. Celine traps some dust in a vial before the trail fades. They lock the captain in a cell carved with salt lines. Theo promises protection if he names the board's buyers. The captain asks whether a clerk's protection means anything now. Theo answers that his promise doesn't come from the desk. Nessa posts 2 trusted students outside and keeps the only key. The captain reveals 3 houses funded the scoreless guards. Celine recognizes her own household among them. Her aunt knew the board erased students. Celine's hands go still, then she removes her family crest and leaves it on the cell floor. She tells Theo to put her aunt first on the list. Above ground, students have learned their scores can be drained. 200 of them surround the match office. Some demand every score be restored. Others want Theo to raise them before the machine disappears, because panic makes people selfish faster than any spell. The office doors bend inward as both factions push against them. A first-year girl asks Theo for 5 points so her brother can keep his dorm bed. A noble boy offers to sell his sister's score. Nessa shoves him away from the desk. Mara hears every plea while ash from her burned shop still stains her coat. Mara checks the dorm ledger and confirms the girl's deadline herself. Theo discovers the chairwoman emptied the local desk. Only his negative entry remains active. He can use it to grant emergency points, but each point will move him closer to board control. How many people can he save before becoming their weapon? A command sigil brightens around Theo's wrist when he touches it. Theo gives 1 point to the first year's brother because the dorm closes today. His entry falls to -4. He refuses the noble boy's sale and removes 1 point for attempted trafficking. That move returns Theo to -3, proving bad acts can fund urgent aid. Mara opens the doors while Nessa chalks both transfers for everyone. Theo tells the crowd he will process causes, not bids. Students form 2 lines under Nessa's spear. Mara checks emergencies. Celine records every transfer. A baker arrives to reclaim the stolen bell. Theo grants her claim, then borrows it until sunset for 1 point. Her ringing opens the first hearing. A girl repairs the eastern ward and earns 2 points. A boy who hoarded healing potions loses 2. Another student escorts children from the lower market and gains 1. The hoarder challenges Theo's judgment. Theo says fear was never the charge. The hidden bottles caused the harm. The hoarder throws a bottle at Theo. Celine blocks it with her discarded family crest. Purple foam covers the crest. Nessa jokes about the color. Celine laughs for the first time since the hunter died. Theo deducts another point for assault. The hoarder retreats when his classmates refuse to defend him. Mara approves 7 emergency claims without requesting anything herself. Black ash falls from her coat onto the pages. Theo wants to raise her score. He knows a secret favor would insult her after his delay cost her home. Mara promises a burned apprentice an answer about reopening after tonight. She approves his medicine. Black dust leads east across the roof. A courier hawk flies toward the old monster arena. Theo catches its message with Celine's silver token. The chairwoman plans to surface the moving vault during tonight's championship. Another note identifies the chains guiding it beneath the fighting pit. Celine recognizes her aunt's cipher. The arena will hold every major household and thousands of spectators. The houses may accept the chairwoman's new match order before Theo exposes the machine. He has 1 afternoon to breach the fortress. Theo recalls 3 entrances. 2 serve nobles. The third is a waste tunnel used after monster bouts. Nessa chooses it. Nessa gathers 6 student fighters. The shield girl will guard Theo. The kitchen worker's brother will cut the vault rails. A limping archer will watch for Celine's aunt. 2 runners will warn the exits. A student familiar with the cages promises to free nothing without orders. Everyone repeats the retreat signal. Celine asks to confront her aunt. Theo warns that the woman may choose the board over her. Celine says she already did. She rubs the stained crest until it cuts her thumb. The shield girl wraps the wound. Celine offers her the crest as payment. The girl refuses the point but keeps it for luck. Mara returns to the burned potion shop before the attack. Theo finds her searching the ruins. She recovers a copper kettle shaped like a frog. Everything else is gone. Mara finds a scorched ledger beneath a collapsed shelf. Its final page names 3 arena vendors who bought fireproofing tonic yesterday. She takes their stall numbers. Theo says he should have moved the points sooner. Mara says someone else would have paid the price. He admits he kept choosing later. She tells him there is no clean later. Theo asks whether she will still fight beside him. Mara hands him the frog kettle. She withholds forgiveness. Trust can be tested tonight. Mara says the kettle contains fire-dulling tonic. She is not fighting for her score or Theo's apology. She wants the machine broken. Theo accepts her boundary. They divide the vendor list. One seller can conceal the fighters beneath a spice cart. Another controls a gate beside the beast pens. They leave by separate streets. The championship begins beneath red banners. A chained horn beast paws the sand. Noble girls fill the front rows. The chairwoman watches from a glass booth. Celine's aunt holds the true scorebook beside her. Theo enters beneath sacks of pepper. Mara carries the frog kettle through the service gate. Rails move beneath the sand. Celine steps into the open. Nessa enters as the late challenger and raises her repaired spear. The crowd chants her name because her hunt score made her the new favorite. Then the announcer declares that whoever defeats her may claim an audience with Theo, turning combat into Tinder with medical staff. Nessa notices the empty champion's box but keeps her smile fixed. 3 noble daughters jump into the ring before the horn beast is removed. One carries twin axes, one uses flame ribbons, and one controls a stone cat. They aren't fighting Nessa alone. They are fighting each other over the right to stand beside Theo. A referee retreats behind his shield when they reject the tournament bracket. The axe girl charges first. Nessa blocks one blade and kicks the second into the stone cat. The flame user lashes both of them, but her ribbon ignites the horn beast's tail. Now 4 opponents run in different directions while the announcer keeps pretending this is planned. Nessa shouts a warning, and the stone cat ducks beneath the blazing ribbon. Theo, Mara, and the student crew enter beneath the western stands. Black dust marks the vault rail. The kitchen worker's brother begins cutting it with a saw enchanted to scream whenever it touches metal. Stealth has left the mission and taken the emergency exit. Mara jams cloth into the saw housing, reducing the scream to a wounded whistle. Above them, the horn beast smashes through the arena gate. Nessa could escape, but the creature charges the crowded seats. She hooks its chain around her spear and lets it drag her across the sand. Every noble daughter stops fighting for Theo's attention and turns toward the real threat. A broken barrier collapses, opening a narrow lane toward the fleeing families. The axe girl cuts the beast's left chain. The flame user burns the right. The stone cat leaps onto its horns and twists its head away from the crowd. Nessa plants both feet, stopping the charge 1 row before it reaches a child holding blue cotton candy. The child drops the candy, and Nessa's sliding boot crushes it. The vault changes direction when the saw touches its rail. Iron wheels thunder beneath Theo's boots. He points toward a side junction and orders everyone off the track. One disposable guard ignores him, tries to finish the cut, and vanishes beneath the armored carriage. Mara yanks the last student clear as the carriage shears through the junction lever. The crew freezes at the permanent loss. Theo pulls the guard's broken saw from beside the rail. He doesn't tell anyone the man died bravely or quickly. He orders 2 students to carry the guard's cloak, and the empty space stays visible in their formation. One student reaches for that empty place, then lowers his hand. Celine enters the chairwoman's booth wearing her stained crest. Her aunt asks whether she has come to apologize. Celine says she came to withdraw her household line. The aunt slaps her, then orders 2 scoreless guards to seize her. Celine seals the booth door with silver thread before they can summon reinforcements. Celine catches one guard's wrist with silver thread. The second drives her against the glass. Her aunt opens the true scorebook and removes 5 points from Nessa. Those points flow into the guards, making their black armor thicken around Celine. Celine sees Nessa's name fading and realizes the scorebook reaches directly into the arena. Nessa feels the deduction while fighting the horn beast. Her spear aura shrinks, and the chain tears through her glove. Blood darkens the sand while her grip begins to slip. The axe girl could strike Nessa now and win Theo's audience. Instead, she catches the chain because the crowd will die if Nessa falls. The flame user joins her, followed by the stone cat handler. This is the first time the girls fight together rather than over Theo. The title spectacle continues, but now their reasons have changed. The crowd changes its chant from Nessa's name to a warning for everyone to pull. That growth matters more than another pile of flowers. The moving vault charges toward Theo's group. Mara throws the frog kettle onto the rail. Fire-dulling tonic turns the wheels brittle, and the kitchen worker's brother strikes them with the broken saw. One wheel cracks, but the vault climbs the wall instead of stopping. The impact scatters iron teeth across the tunnel. Mara pulls the nearest student clear before the vault's shadow sweeps overhead. The armored carriage races up a vertical rail toward the glass booth. Theo grabs a maintenance chain and swings onto its rear platform. Mara catches his ankle, then the shield girl catches Mara. 3 students anchor them while the vault drags everyone upward. The chain's ceiling bolts groan under their combined weight. Theo kicks a hatch latch, marking a possible way inside. A scoreless knight steps from the carriage and cuts the chain. Theo lands on the rear rail, while Mara falls toward the undercroft. The shield girl dives and catches her coat. Mara's father's card slips free and disappears into the dark below. A student below throws up a lantern, but its light misses the falling card. Mara watches the last piece of that card vanish. Her grip loosens for 1 second. Then the shield girl shouts her name, and Mara grabs the rail again. The loss persists, but it does not get to choose her next action. Mara orders the others to keep climbing before grief can freeze the whole line. Theo climbs onto the vault roof and faces the scoreless knight. The knight has no visible number and feels no deduction. He says the board erased his family 10 years ago. Now he serves because the chairwoman promised to restore one sister. The knight removes his helmet, revealing a faded registry brand that matches the seals on Theo's stolen records. Theo asks whether the knight has seen that sister. He hasn't. Theo asks whether her card exists. The knight hesitates. Theo points out that promises need witnesses, while secrets only need obedient guards. Strange loyalty becomes an explicit question, and that doubt gives Theo one breath before the sword comes down. Theo blocks with the old clerk's key, but the blade bends it across his palm. The knight strikes again and cuts Theo's shoulder. Our boy pays for entering a sword fight armed with office supplies. Somewhere, the old clerk's 3 emergency wigs are judging him. Below them, Mara reaches the rear platform and shouts that another wall rail ends ahead. Theo shows the knight a transfer record naming his sister. Her score was drained into Celine's aunt 8 years earlier. The board cannot restore her because it already spent her number. Theo reads the transfer date aloud, and the knight recognizes his own signature beneath it. The knight's sword stops, but he doesn't surrender yet. The knight claims Theo forged the record. He attacks harder and drives Theo to the roof edge. Theo opens his own card and lets the blade pierce its corner. Blue ledger script crawls from the pierced card onto the knight's gauntlet. The desk links the knight to Theo's live negative score, proving the transfer record is real. The knight sees his sister's name appear beneath Theo's. His arms begin shaking. He turns his blade toward the glass booth instead of Theo. This opponent resisted, escalated, and changed only after the proof cost Theo blood. Celine's aunt orders the knight to kill Theo. The knight asks, "Where is my sister?" She says, "Still useful." He asks, "Alive?" The aunt says nothing. Celine sees his answer arrive in the way his sword lowers. The knight smashes through the booth wall. Celine drops beneath the glass, while her aunt shields the scorebook. The chairwoman escapes onto the vault roof with the book chained to her wrist. The knight holds off both black guards, buying Celine time. Nessa and the 3 noble daughters finally pull the horned beast down. It crashes beside the blue cotton candy without crushing the child. The rescued child crawls to Nessa and clutches her torn sleeve. Then the arena floor splits as the moving vault rises through the sand. The crowd sees the kingdom's hidden score machine for the first time. Thousands of brass cards spin above the exposed carriage. Parents recognize missing children and ruined households among them. One father catches his son's card and begins reading the thefts aloud. The chairwoman raises the true scorebook and calls the machine lawful tradition. Nobody cares about that word when dead students' cards are raining into their laps. Theo reaches the roof as the chairwoman opens Celine's entry. She transfers 30 points into Celine at once. Every point comes from another girl in the arena. Names flare across the mechanism as each stolen point changes hands. Nessa, Mara, the Axe Girl, and dozens more feel their cards darken. The crowd turns towards Celine as her score climbs. Marriage offers erupt from the noble stands. Some girls blame her and charge the booth. Others rush to defend her. Arena guards lose formation when their own family cards join the storm. The board has converted one false perfect match into a battle involving half the arena. Celine shouts that she rejects every transferred point. The scorebook ignores her because the chairwoman approved the move. Theo tries to cut the wrist chain, but the chairwoman releases a pulse that throws him across the roof. Celine catches Theo's cord before he slides over the roof edge. Nessa climbs the broken vault rail with blood running from her side. Mara follows carrying the empty frog kettle. Mara hooks the kettle around a rail and hauls Nessa higher. The axe girl holds back enraged students below. Each woman now fights for a different reason, yet every path still leads toward Theo in this cursed book. The chairwoman asks Theo why he resists becoming the kingdom's chosen husband. He could control households through their daughters. Theo says she doesn't understand him. He never wanted girls forced to choose him. He wanted one person to choose freely. The nearest student stopped fighting long enough to hear his answer. Celine hears that answer and looks at the silver token still tied to Theo's cord. She admits her public refusal wasn't entirely hers. Her aunt threatened to remove Celine's younger cousins from school if she accepted a zero-ranked boy. Celine names both cousins, forcing her aunt's threat into public record. Theo asks why Celine never told him. She says she was ashamed that she obeyed. That reason does not erase what happened, but it finally explains the strange distance afterward. Theo cuts her wrist chain instead of reaching for her hand. Celine steadies herself, then drops the severed chain at her aunt's feet. The chairwoman activates the machine's strongest counter. Every card in the arena links to Theo's negative entry. His score drops from -3 to -19 in a single pulse. Brass restraints rise from the roof and begin tracking Theo's ankles. One more point will make him board property. Students below feel their scores stabilize because Theo absorbs the imbalance. The chairwoman tells him one more rescue will surrender his will. Then she deducts a point from Mara, knowing Theo has avoided her account since the beginning. Mara's deduction flashes above the arena so everyone can see the bait. Mara's card begins turning black. She presses the card against her chest while the darkness advances. Theo can save it by taking the point himself. Mara tells him not to. The chairwoman smiles because either choice wins. Abandon Mara or become the board's obedient root. Theo reaches for his own card. Nessa grabs his wrist and says, "Don't make another choice for us." Celine says, "Let Mara choose." Mara looks at the black edge spreading across her name and tears the card in half herself. The halves spark, but no point crosses into Theo's waiting entry. The machine stutters because an active student destroyed her own entry without a transfer. Mara loses every remaining match point and all household claims. Yet the darkness stops before reaching Theo. She has chosen herself, even though the choice costs the last legal trace of her family. A blank brass card drops from the slot where Mara's name had been. The chairwoman attacks Mara with the scorebook's brass chain. Theo blocks it and takes the hook through his clerk sleeve. Nessa tackles the chairwoman, but a score pulse throws her off. Celine catches Nessa with silver thread before she falls into the arena. Theo braces the chain around his forearm and keeps it away from Mara. The chairwoman pulls Theo toward the central wheel. She says the machine has balanced kings for 3 centuries. Theo looks at Mara's torn card, then at his -19 entry. Every number can move except one that no longer exists. The wheel offers 3 flashing names as replacements for the missing debt. Theo opens the true scorebook to his own page. The chairwoman tries transferring the final point before he acts. Celine wraps thread around her wrist. Nessa drives the broken spear through the chain. Mara pours the last tonic from the kettle onto the page lock. The wet brass swells, and the lock spits out its final pin. The lock opens. Theo takes the steel nib from his collar and draws one hard line through his own name. He does not move his score. He deletes the entry carrying -19, which removes value the machine cannot place anywhere else. The carriage lurches sideways as the erased debt races through every gear. Every brass wheel stops. The forced scores flicker across the stands, then vanish. Celine falls from the artificial top rank. Nessa loses her hunt bonus. Mara remains unlisted. For the first time, none of these girls carries a number telling the kingdom whom to value. Students in the stands tear off their rank ribbons and throw them down. The chairwoman tries writing Theo's name back into the book. The page rejects the ink and burns her hand. She screams that an unlisted student cannot graduate, inherit, marry, or hold land. She offers to restore his sister's record if he closes the page. Theo says, "Then your machine has nothing left to threaten me with." She pulls a hidden blade and lunges at Mara. Theo catches her wrist, but his wounded shoulder gives way. The chairwoman drives him against the wheel. Mara grabs the torn card, but the blade knocks it across the platform. This final enemy still has one counter left, and she uses it on the person whose account started everything. Nessa throws her broken spear from below. The shaft pins the chairwoman's sleeve to the wheel. Celine tightens silver thread around the blade. Mara steps forward and strikes the chairwoman with the empty frog kettle, leaving its smiling face stamped into her armor. Nessa lands beside Theo and drags him clear of the grinding teeth. The chairwoman rips free and activates the ink reservoir manually. A wave of black clerks rises around them. Theo has no score now, so the creatures cannot see him. He passes Nessa, his steel nib, as he moves beyond her reach. He walks through their reaching hands while everyone else fights to keep them back. Theo reaches the central card and tears out the board's ownership mark. The ink soldiers collapse, but the reservoir cracks beneath the carriage. The entire vault begins sinking into its own dry pit. Mara wedges the kettle under a rail, buying them a narrow path upward. The chairwoman hangs from one remaining chain above the broken wheel. Theo could save her. Instead, he asks where the erased students were sent. She refuses and tries climbing alone. The chain snaps beneath her, but the scoreless knight catches her from the lower platform because he still needs the truth about his sister. Celine lowers a silver thread while Theo demands the hidden registry's location again. The vault settles crooked inside the arena. Students carry the wounded through gaps in the stands. The guard killed beneath the carriage remains covered by his cloak. The horned beast breathes beside the untouched cotton candy. A rescued child wakes and points at the beast. She asks whether anyone saved its supper. Celine releases the transfer records. Her household guards arrest her aunt. The woman orders them to seize Celine instead. The captain removes his house badge and refuses. Nessa rests against the arena wall while Mara closes her wound. Theo approaches, and both girls tell him to sit before he falls. Celine joins them with the silver token. She says, "My answer that day was still no." Theo nods. She adds, "Ask me again when none of us is bleeding." Mara says that may take time. Nessa claims she can stop bleeding competitively. Celine folds the token into Theo's palm and tells him not to lose it twice. The axe girl reminds Theo that she helped save the crowd. The flame user claims she did more. The stone cat handler says her cat carried 6 children. Soon all three are arguing over who deserves Theo's first free dinner. The horned beast steals the cotton candy, and the children cheer. Theo reminds them the scores are gone. The axe girl answers, "Good." She first wanted the clerk, but now prefers the boy who erased himself. Nessa rises despite Mara's warning. Losing the system has not reduced Theo's challengers. He offers his first dinner to the arena crews. All 3 girls volunteer to help them. Mara steps between Theo and the 3 daughters. Celine joins her. Nessa blocks the path with her broken spear. Theo watches 6 girls prepare to fight over an unranked boy. He asks whether deleting the numbers simplified anything. Absolutely not. Mara declares a truce until the wounded are moved. Nobody disputes her. The next morning, students tear down the old score display. Some celebrate. Others panic because their households depended on high matches. Theo helps lower the brass frame. Nobody calls him clerk, but everyone still brings him disputes. A student turns the fallen frame into a table. Another starts a voluntary repair roster. A first year thanks Theo because her brother kept his dorm bed. The potion hoarder demands his deducted points back. Theo says no points remain. The boy swings, and Nessa catches his wrist. Theo orders him to sweep the shattered display glass. Nessa releases him after he accepts the broom. Celine reads the board's transfer records aloud. Each names a favorite house and the student drained for it. Parents gather below the steps. One father finds his signature beneath a transfer he never approved. He climbs the steps and demands that every page be preserved. The truth begins a larger war than the scorebook prevented. The old clerk is buried with his brass key and an emergency wig. His grandchildren attend under Celine's protection. Theo leaves the repaired key on the grave. One granddaughter adds a sealed joke card and refuses to explain it. The other 2 wigs are missing. The old man has left one final mystery. Mara stands before her ruined shop. Students arrive with bricks, timber, and potion glass without asking for points. The kitchen worker brings stew. Celine orders her household to send roof tiles, though they are ugly gold. Mara distributes hammers. Former rivals rebuild the same wall without competing for credit. Theo gives Mara the wooden spoon from his seized home. She hangs it beneath the melted frog sign. She says the new shop will keep no account of favors. Theo agrees. Nessa writes, "One dinner" on the wall with charcoal. Mara circles it and adds, "with interest." She tells Theo that personal debts are exempt. Celine crosses out Nessa's note. The axe girl writes, 2 dinners. Mara adds dishwashing beneath both. This mirrored bidding war now owns no armies, no scores, and one very dirty spoon. Theo prefers it that way. The stallkeeper demands his spoon back. Theo scrubs it while the girls argue over soap. The arrested chairwoman is moved beneath heavy guard. She tells Theo the kingdom has other matchbooks. The Royal Academy controlled only the central houses. Foreign courts will see an unlisted heir as territory nobody has claimed. The captain tightens her chains. She smiles and drops a signet ring to a courier in the crowd. Theo asks how quickly those courts will hear. A horn sounds beyond the wall before she answers. 12 black carriages approach beneath foreign banners. Each door bears the same symbol, a blank card crossed by a gold crown. Gate wardens lower the portcullis. The lead driver stops one pace short and presents a challenge writ. The first carriage opens, and an armored princess steps onto the road. She carries a scorebook written in another language. Behind her stand envoys, duelists, and 6 young women wearing claim ribbons. None of them look surprised to find Theo waiting. The princess removes her helmet. She is barely older than Theo. One claimant tosses a silver gauntlet at his feet. The princess asks, "Which one is Theo Rask?" Nessa points at him while moving in front of him. Celine says, "State your purpose first." Mara lifts the frog kettle, and the axe girl quietly draws both weapons. Theo catches the kettle before Mara throws it. The frog lid squeaks like a battle cry. The princess opens her foreign book. Theo's crossed-out card appears on its first page by itself. The book labels him the only unbound match in 4 kingdoms. Then every carriage door opens, revealing dozens more challengers. So the board is broken, but Theo's name has reached a much larger game. Mara has no household, Celine has turned against hers, Nessa still wants that dinner, and foreign courts are already lining up outside. Which girl will reach him first, and what will the next scorebook demand? Our unlisted boy adjusts his torn clerk sleeves as both sides draw weapons. If you want the next part, leave a like and tell me which faction should make the first move. This fight over Theo has only crossed its first border.